Assalamu alaikum everyone. We're starting. Sorry for being late. I'm just going to wait 1 more minute so that the people who had left the meeting, they can come back, and if they're not coming back, we can start anyway. But I'm just going to wait 1 minute for those who left and they're coming. Meanwhile, I'm going to screen share. Okay, so first, I'm just going to see that if those who left, are they back or not. If they're not back, it's okay, we can start. Just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to start with any one of the pictures. Okay, so we did Lightroom in one of the previous classes, and that was Lightroom which was done on the mobiles. So you do know what's like the specification or something about an app, about Lightroom specifically. And Lightroom is, kept telling in the previous class about Lightroom, that it is majorly about color grading. And I mentioned that if you're doing editing on a PC or your MacBook or any laptop that you have, or on a PC, you do have this thing, and it's called like a histogram. And they have like these you see that the up and down this thing. If you guys can like have your concentration on this histogram, this, a lot of people, they don't see this when they're doing editing. But I would say that if you're learning editing and if you want to learn it in a very professional way, this is something very, very important. Because here, if you're going to see some videos of someone who is doing professional editing, you would be seeing that they would be using this a lot. So when I open this, you would see that my camera settings, even though I just transferred these pictures directly from the camera here, but they do have all the camera settings, be it any camera that you have used, be it a picture that was taken like 7 to 8 years ago, it does give you all the settings, so you have that idea about your picture. Secondly, we would start with the color. Like Lightroom is about color grading, so we have these. I do not use presets, but we do have the option of using presets. As I mentioned in the previous Lightroom class, we have the option of using presets, but I would not recommend anyone to use presets, because they're like what's like, it's more fun using your own settings and playing with it, exploiting different tools, and that's something more fun and more challenging if you're like going to do a more professional, or even if you're doing it for fun, you should like use your own settings, not a fixed preset. But if you're like running late and you have to do it, you can do with the presets. So moving on, we have this white balance thing, which we did have in the previous on the mobile settings, here as well. Firstly, see, now the thing is that in mobile, you're having your finger on the screen. So like it's more flexible, and I think it's more easier. But if you're going for something that requires more concentration and something that you're doing in for something more professional, you're going to use a PC, which a lot of people recommend. And personally, I would say the same thing. So exposure, I would not repeat a lot, like I would not explain a lot on what exposure, clarity, vibrance means, because we have done that in a lot of previous classes, and in the manual settings as well you would have an idea about the exposure. So the things that have been covered in the previous classes, I would not put a lot of concentration on them, but we have this exposure. Now it's a little, it's something that you don't, this part is something a lot of people would not find it fun, because it's like very less flexible. But the thing I would say is that just see over there, because it is more of a concentrated work, you do have a lot of time, and when you have time you don't have to like just swipe your finger and everything is like the setting is changed. You have to slow down, you have to see, you have a lot of time, you have to do this work with a lot of concentration. Then we have about the clarity. I would, you all know about the clarity, so I would not repeat. But if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box, and I will come back and I will answer all these questions if you want me to repeat any, like as we did in the last class of for mobile editing. We did that. If you have any, if you're confused about any tool, I'm going to repeat that. I don't have any problem with that. Then we have vibrance. Vibrance like just gets your colors more sharp, a little, puts a little more contrast in them, just adds a little color to them and make them. Now as well, I don't know about the laptops or if they have something to do with the display brightness, but if you know how you do that, please keep in mind your device's brightness, because that as well has a major impact on your picture. So vibrance, you can see now the picture is like going really dull, and very the shades have the color, the pink color, because there's, you would not notice a lot with the face, there is a difference, but the major difference starts with the shirt, with the color of the shirt. So in the picture starts getting more yellowish and things like that. So if you don't want your picture to be really yellowish, you could get that. Now because this is like Lightroom is a degree less to using Photoshop. In the next classes we would be using Photoshop, so we could do that with selective work, as we had an option in Snapseed as well. But here we have like in Lightroom is color grading, but on a very spread level. It does not has options to do with like different and things like that. Then we have, just a second. Okay, so okay, we do have this other thing. Sorry, just a minute. I'm going to come back to the same picture. Okay, so just a minute. I'm going to zoom out. All right. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to start with the background options. New options. Just a minute. Okay, there's as well one other thing that a lot of people, we have the previous classes, which is about, like just a second, my Lightroom is having this, like I cannot open the settings. Just a minute. I'm going to stop my screen share for 1 minute because my Lightroom, the settings are not coming. Just a minute. Sorry guys. Okay, sorry for the. Other things which do not come in editing, but they are as well important in Lightroom. This part, because a lot of people who are using softwares, they do have a lot of confusion. Personally, me myself, I do not use Lightroom, so I do have confusion. But these are some things which are important about using different softwares. These uh, the importing files and exporting files. So this, if you're very confused about like where do you import your files or where do you export it, you go to the file, the icon file, and then you have all of these options here. You do not have to go anywhere else. It's all in the file section. And about editing, if you have done some, because any editing and you feel like that's something that should not have been done, then you have the selection, and you can undo your selection. You can invert selection is basically when you select something and you want the exterior part, the outer part, to be selected instead of like the inner part. That's where you do invert selection. Then you can flag some pictures. Now Lightroom has one other thing, that it has a library, so you can add pictures to that. And all these pictures, that these are basically imported from my library. So you can give Lightroom like a whole folder to import, and then you can have all the pictures that are in those folders. So you do not have to worry about importing large files, because this takes really less time. Like a whole folder with like 50 to 60 pictures can be imported in like 5 to 6 minutes. So I think that is like Lightroom on PC or on mobile, there's not a major difference except the part about the histogram, which I have explained. All the If you want to move on like a degree ahead, you're going to be using all that on the Photoshop. So Lightroom on PC, I would never recommend it, because it is something not really smart. And if you are doing something on your PC, I think you should move on Photoshop. Uh, Lightroom on mobile and Lightroom on uh, the PC, it's the same thing. So then you can enable filters, but um, like I said, that you would not want to enable any filters, because you would really want. PS, you can enable filters, as well as you can create, like you can have your own presets and filters. So you can like pick a whole setting, and then you can have like from here, like sorry, yes, in library you have all that. If you like this all setting, if I want it to be a filter, um just filter by preset. So you have all these options. I have like this app has not, my Lightroom has not been installed for very long, so it does not has any filters saved. But if I and secondly, I mentioned that I don't use filter presets. But if you're been using filter presets, you can have your library. And this is another bonus point I think about having Lightroom, is that you can have, which is not in Photoshop, from what I've noticed, that you can have your personal library in this Lightroom, with filters, with pictures, and you can have your collections and folders. And large folders take really less time to get. You can in like Photoshop, you have different layers and different names for them. So the same thing, you can merge photos, but the same thing, I will not do that, because again it gives a very superficial effect, and I don't know, I don't like that. Then you can have the rotating thing, the flipping thing, about uh, removing a picture and things like that. They're all in photo. And then we have this metadata, and you can have all these like things about keyword and color label set and all these things. And I would work on default, because I don't want to go in there, and that you don't want to really go in all that confusion. I'm going to, this session is going to be like winding up. wind it up really quick. I'll come back to the questions because again, it does not has a lot. I have explained the edit settings, and honestly, if you're going to be moving from after these classes, you're going to be using Photoshop, and you're going to like love how much you can play with it. It's more boring than editing on your mobile because it is limited, but it does not has a lot of tools to play with to give a professional touch to your picture. It does work like a professional software, but it does not have a professional touch to the pictures, so you would not like it. And a lot of people, they don't use it. You do have these things about spot removal and things like that. Go back to picture. Like, see, this software is not a very friendly software. It does has a lot of, you can see that it does gives a lot of problems in working the software. Honestly, you would those who have not used Photoshop, they would think that it's more harder than that. But this software, I would not recommend it. You have all your presets here. You can curve your picture, the same thing that we did in sorry, we did that in Snapseed, the curve thing. So I will not go on in the curve thing because you have done that. You do have the grain thing, but when you're using professional pictures, I don't think you would want to add a lot of grain to your picture, but you can just zoom in. Sorry, you just zoom in a little. I have actually run this picture. So I'm going to come back to this picture, which we were using initially. So you do have grain, you have sharpening here. You can add more presets. You can, like I mentioned before, you can create your presets. People actually purchase presets. So that's not something very different. Now you have this place where you can, like, you have that red eye thing, which a lot of people have used. I'm not going to. You have all these color grading things, exposure, contrast. Like contrast, I don't know why it's not getting really visible, but and there's one more thing, it does not has layers. A lot of apps have layers, it does not has layers. So I am actually critiquing this app a lot because I am not liking it. uh, so you have all these here. You have wait, these are all things that we did in the mobile photography thing, but that was more fun. Okay. Uh, then we have clarity, we have dehazing. Okay, I think I can, but I don't know why. But I'm giving you an idea. I don't know why it's not working because I'm not very used to Lightroom. I think it could be my mistake. But I'm going to give you guys an idea so that if you use Lightroom ever, you can have an idea about how it works. But I think like you could use some better software than this. We have clarity dehaze texture, which we used in the previous class. So those who have attended the previous class would know about these. You have the highlights, shadows, the whites and the blacks. The whites would be, and the highlights and the whites are basically about highlighting and brightening your lighter areas, and like this. And now it's working. Contrast is, like a lot of you would know about the contrast, is it gives a very sharpened effect to your picture, and the blacks and the shadows are about like darkening the blacker parts. So like, you see the wood is getting darkened. And just last thing that like the second last thing that I'm going to mention is the second, like, okay, it's about like, just when I'm using this, can you guys like see only on the histogram, like whatever you use, like this is something you would have this in Photoshop as well, but this is something when you work on a PC, you get this histogram thing, and I think it's something cool, like different from using any software on a mobile. So you be it any, if you're using an editing software on the uh, in your PC or laptop or MacBook, then you're going to have this histogram thing, and that is something different, and that is something cool. You as well get your camera settings as well if you're not very sure about the picture. The color grading has the same thing. It does give you like these tone curve, like we did that in Snapseed. You can split your tones, you do have that thing. Okay, you do, like, exactly. Like, see the saturation, now it works. Okay, so you do have that. You have details, you have the lens correction, you have transform. We're just going to see if there's something that we find is different. No, it does has more options, but there isn't something much of a difference. See the scale, the works. Okay, so you can this is something different, and I think you get this border thing. And then I'm just going to check if there's something other than this which was different in Lightroom on PC. It's the same thing in effects as well. It's like the thing that we discussed about vignette. They have not used the word vignette. Yeah, they have. Okay, so post crop vignetting, the same thing. Like the it comes under the thing vignette. Then you have the calibration thing. Okay. You have the same thing here. It's like they're actually dragging or color grading a lot, and they do not emphasize a lot on the spot healing things. They're in the like the whole app. There is only one thing where you get this thing to heal, and that was in previous. I did mention about it. I did work use it. So but I was going to ruin the picture with that thing. So that is the only thing. So I think that that's like a general view that I have given of the. You have presets, you have the histogram, and I think I cannot drag this app anymore. And I have given a critique what I think of the app as well. So if you're going to think of ever using it in your future, and I'm not saying that it's a really bad app, but in comparison to the apps that we're teaching in in this mentorship about like Photoshop or Lightroom, and if you really want to use Lightroom, then I think it's more easier on the mobile. And if you, like it does, the only thing that why people use it on their PCs is because it gives a professional touch. So it's like something in the middle of give working things professionally and not giving it a very easier thing, and like having your own comfort, because a lot of people don't know how to use Photoshop. So they it's like a middle of it. And I will not drag it. I am coming back to Zoom. So okay. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, can you guys just please send in any questions if you're confused about any tool, if you wanted me to go to any tool that I did not go through, or I did not give it much attention, like I did not explain it very well, or there's something that you feel like that is lacking, or can you guys just put that in the chat and I'm going to see it. I'm going to answer your questions. And I think this app was a little dragged. Like that's all. If you have any questions, I'm just going to wait 1 to 2 minutes. And again, sorry for the delay. And if you feel like there's anything that wasn't uh, gone through in this app, you can like mention that. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait like 2 minutes. Like on 46, I think I'm going to end the meeting if like there's no questions. Okay. Thank you guys for being here today. And like that's it for today. It's a wrap up. And thank you. And like, okay.